It's easier to assume they're in, though, because then we have less to talk about.
I just don't. I mean, the problem is so many of these teams are on back-to-backs, and the guys went down and didn't return yesterday.
Right. Or like Morant just didn't play.
Right. Like, I mean, it'd be shocking if Brogdon played today.
Yeah.
Guys like him, you know?
Oh, yeah. I would bet a lot he doesn't play.
But I don't think Van Vliet plays either. You know, I don't know. Maybe they do. You can silent count me, Mike. Makes it easier. There you go. Thanks. Yo, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Awesemo.com NBA Strategy Show, presented by No House Advantage. I'm Dave Loughran at Loughy_D, LOUGHY_D on the Twitters. For those of you podcast listeners out there, all social media for that matter. And joined by Adam Scherer at Ship My Money DFS. You know where to find the fella. 11 games, man. 11 games today. Good thing you're doing the deeper dive and I'm not. But yeah, we got a lot to talk about today. A lot of questionable players, and most of these teams playing their last game before the All-Star break.
Yeah, a lot of moving pieces today. Most likely going to end up with a ton of value by the time lock rolls around. So should be a high-scoring slate again.
I mean, dude, if Morant's out, Tyus Jones is still 3,100.
Yeah, I mean, why wouldn't his salary drop?
What was he yesterday? 3,200?
Yeah.
Yeah, so we'll see. And I was just taking a look to see how many teams are playing tonight and tomorrow. I think there's a couple, but nah. Yeah, Washington, Brooklyn, and Houston. Is Houston on the slate? I think they are. Yeah, they're on the slate. So 3 teams. None of them that have like really significant injury news. So let's dive into it, man. We got a lot to talk about. Happy to have you guys with us as always on this Wednesday morning. Hit that thumbs up if you haven't done so yet. Subscribe to the channel as well. We have surpassed 73,000 subs. So much appreciate you for that. But yeah, hit that thumbs up when you walk in. It takes a second. You won't have to do it twice. But if you do it twice, do it 3 times because twice would not work. Anyway, hit the join now too if you want. Get the custom emojis, the free super chats each month, the badges, and we'll always prioritize your questions, comments along with our Discord members if you want to join the team. All right, man. Let's do this. Kick it off with Atlanta and Orlando. Hawks, one of many teams playing their second of a back-to-back today. Trae Young coming off a superb 41-point performance in that loss to the Cleveland Cavaliers. We'll kick it off here. John Collins out through the All-Star break. We know that. Clint Capella wildly underwhelming yesterday in his 30 minutes, and Bogdan Bogdanovic off the bench with a decent enough effort for him. So there are pieces here against the bad Orlando team, but we also have 11 games. So how do we want to attack it?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's similar or identical, I guess, really, to what we talked about yesterday with Cleveland. The only difference is that it's a hell of a lot better matchup going up against Orlando than you had yesterday with Cleveland. But I think yesterday, even the guys that disappointed, like Clint Capella, I think yesterday was still a positive in that you once again saw Capella play 30 and a half minutes. Yes, he sucked against Cleveland. Happens. You shouldn't be like carrying that over to today and saying Clint Capella is a bad player or something. He's 5,300. He's likely to play around 30 minutes against Orlando. We know that he's over a fantasy point per minute guy. Makes him look great at 5,300. Trae Young is still cheap at 9,400. Talked about it a lot yesterday that without John Collins on the floor, Young's usage rate goes up. His assist percentage comes down a little bit. His per minute production goes up a little bit. And now you just have an even better matchup for him. I think he still looks like he's one of the top, upper mid-range options on the slate. And then beyond that, you get the grouping of wings with Bogdanovic, Hunter, Herter, Gallinari. There's a lot of minutes available for these guys because once again, Atlanta didn't add anyone to the rotation. There was no TLC. There was no Kevin Knox. So it means that game by game, the minutes between these guys may fluctuate a little bit, like within this group of 4. Like the other day, Bogdanovic played 37 minutes. Yesterday, he played 29. Hunter played like 39 minutes. Yesterday, he played 35. Herter went from 26 to 31. Gallo went from 22 to 32. So you're going to see fluctuations like that. But there's going to be a couple guys from this group that play a bunch of minutes and look good at their salary. It's just a matter of, basically whichever ones are playing better. So I think that whole group of Bogdanovic, Hunter, Herter, Gallo look like solid kind of last piece in type options, while Young and Capella are guys to build around.
Yeah, you're right. Capella, bad game. He went stretches without collecting he went stretching like 5-6 minutes at a time without collecting a single stat, right? Those are those games where you're like, just do something. But it's still got 30 minutes, and that's what you're looking for here with John Collins out. So we see what the rotation looks like. That's important. And as you pointed out, way better matchup. Not even comparable. A couple of things here. Appreciate you guys mentioning the sidebar, the game missing. It's not missing. As we move down games, it'll appear. We just only have so much room on the sidebar. So it's there. It just doesn't look like it's there. But, it is there. And listen to this one, man. Dr. Chad, $50 super chat, Adam, said, hey, fellas, just wanted to say thank you for all the advice. 10K takedown last night. Over 200K in the past year, in huge part to the Awesemo team. Truly appreciate the daily advice. That always feels good to see that.
That's awesome. Congrats,
man. And thank you for the super chat. Keep it going. What about
I also, while we're talking about chat, I do appreciate the people pointing out that we do have an 11-game slate for you today.
Yeah, I should have started with 7.
Yeah.
Should have said we got 7. Yeah, I guess I did yesterday. I don't know. I admitted to my faults, even though I didn't go back and check the tape, but I'll take their word for it, which is probably an unwise decision. Orlando on the other side. So 6-point dogs, not huge at home, right? Like that's manageable. 228 total here. You got Cole Anthony, Wendell Carter Jr., the guy, the usual suspects. all of them pulling sub 10%. I think, and ownership will update, become more accurate throughout the day. But I think that makes sense when you've got so many other games to target.
Yeah, I like the pricing here though. And I mean, you do have a pretty healthy 112 total for Orlando. Cole Anthony at 6,700, I think looks good. Wendell Carter Jr. at 7,300, certainly a fine option. Same goes for Jalen Suggs. I think Anthony's the clear top guy for me out of the group, but Carter and Suggs look fine. Mo Bamba at 4,400. I mean, he was awful the other day, but that shouldn't deter you too much. What should deter you is that he only played 11 minutes. That's a problem. But he had 4 fouls. I still think it's a situation where his minutes are all over the place, but we do know that Atlanta is going to play 48 minutes of Capella Okongwu. If Bamba's playing well, you could still just get 24 to 26 minutes, and at 4,400, that would look really good. So he's extremely risky, but I still think that there's a pretty massive ceiling there at that price.
Okay. Yeah, Cole Anthony and most of this team, right? They're not a good team. We know that. They got a lot of young players. It's just highly volatile players is what you're looking at for the most part when it comes to Orlando, right? Like just so many of them are very, like even Cole Anthony. Cole Anthony can come out and rip off a huge game, flirt with triple doubles, or he can just be completely non-existent for 33 minutes. And that's what you're getting with this team. But in tournaments, I guess you have to embrace some of that.
Yeah, and I mean, Anthony's likely to give you 32 to 34 minutes if the game's competitive. He's over a fantasy point per minute guy. I think he's just someone that is, should be like 7,500. He's 6,700. So,
okay.
Like on this slate, I doubt by the time we get to lock that he's like, a top option or anything, because you're probably going to get some really cheap value that opens up, and it's going to make it really easy to go stars and scrubs. But I do think he's underpriced to 6,700.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Detroit, on the other hand, this is ugly. I just did the breakfast menu show with Ben Rasa that goes on our Odd Shopper channel over everything sports betting. Check that out. It's a lot of fun, great videos. It can really help you out, not just with picks each day and with bets, but also learning how to be a sharper better. And Ben's done an awesome job with that. One of those sides that I took was Boston laying the points 12.5. I mean, yeah, they're on the second of a back-to-back, Adam, but they're a fucking buzzsaw right now, dude. And they are just an insanely talented team. I don't think we should understate the arrival of Derek White as their sixth man. I mean, that's huge. I know they'll likely be without Marcus Smart today. Sprained his ankle, came back, shot some free throws, and then left and did not return. But most of these guys didn't play their full allotment of minutes. They're at home. They didn't have to travel far. Detroit's just a bad team. I mean, I like Boston a lot here. From a DFS standpoint, though, Detroit is just not a team. Boston's a good defensive team. I think they rout them. I just have trouble having any interest in anything from Detroit right now, especially given that the only guy that's inactive is Frank Jackson.
Yeah, same boat. I mean, there's some pricing on Detroit that at least gives you upside. Jeremy Grant, 5,700 on FanDuel, 6,100 on DraftKings. Like, if Detroit exceeds expectations here, there's a good chance Grant did well. But I also just would be really surprised if they exceed expectations. Cade Cunningham, kind of the same thing. $6,900 for him on DraftKings, $6K flat on FanDuel. There's obviously upside there, but there's going to be upside on a lot of relatively low-owned plays on this slate that don't involve taking guys from one of the worst teams in the league at Boston with a 102 implied total.
Remember when I got laughed at yesterday for telling everyone they needed to play Jason Tatum? And
you were all over. You said Jason Tatum was the best play on the slate, and everyone made fun of you.
Oh, it's great. No, we both liked him at the low ownership, though, right? We certainly
liked isn't the word I would use. I said that.
I think I liked him a little more than you did, maybe, but I was also a little hesitant anytime a guy is in amongst a lot of other great top tier players. But
yeah, like the way I view guys like Tatum is when they're correctly priced, they're always a good play in the sense that like they're really damn good and they can score 60 fantasy points at low ownership. I didn't like him in the sense of like I still didn't think I was going to get to a lot.
Right. No, I totally get that. But and I agree with you. But it speaks to the point of like good players can have great games even if it's not the best matchup. And that's right. That's all we were talking about, right? Only played 30 minutes. Jaylen Brown played 29 minutes and was electric from downtown. I don't know if Robert Williams plays today on the second of a back-to-back. I don't think there's any chance personally that Marcus Smart plays as huge favorites at home in the last game before the All-Star break. But that could open up some more minutes from some of these reserve players as well. Interesting spot for Boston, to say the least.
Yeah, definitely. And I agree with you. I'd be shocked if Smart plays. I have no idea if Robert Williams plays. If Smart's out, I assume Derek White starts. He moved into the starting lineup in the second half yesterday. Got to 27 and a half minutes in his 3 quarters. I think that assuming Smart's out, it's very likely you're getting low to mid 30s in minutes from Derek White, or at least, assuming that this game is remotely competitive. Makes him look good at 5,800. He'd probably be the top option for me from Boston. If Williams is out, Horford looks okay at 5,600. And then Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, kind of the same plays as yesterday. I think obviously a much better matchup against Detroit, but similar plays in that, like, Jason Tatum is fine at 9,600, but I would certainly rather play Trae Young. I think there's just still going to be guys that look a little bit more underpriced, but that's not to say you can't go back to Tatum and Brown, because there's a pretty good chance one of them exceeds their salary. It's kind of, I view those two similarly to the way I view the Toronto starters when we talk about them, where when you're looking at median projections and you're taking into account like what they average out to over a season, the pricing ends up looking correct. But what you have to keep in mind is you're talking about a 1-game sample, and on a game-to-game basis, it's not like Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown are always just playing, right to their season-long rates. A lot of times you're going to see, oh, this is a game where Tatum just took over, or this is a game where Jaylen Brown just took over. And so that ability still gives them the opportunity to exceed their salaries. It's just that it's riskier than going to somebody that is clearly underpriced.
For sure. And just to throw it out there, this is one of those examples of a game blowing out and players not getting their full allotment of minutes, but them doing so much damage in the time that they played that they caused the blowout, right? Like 60 for Tatum, and he didn't step on the court in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and it's like, I don't know, it's like that sticks in people's minds because they're looking at their team and they're like, damn, Tatum has 60, and then he doesn't play the fourth, and they're like, oh, I missed out on 15 more points. Like, no, you got 60 points from Jason Tatum.
Right. You got 60 points from Jason Tatum, and that's why they have 120 points after 3 quarters or whatever it was. Yeah, exactly.
Like, yes, would you have preferred that Philly hung in the game and Tatum went for 75? Of course. But you're not going to forego a 60-point game from Jason Tatum just because it happened to occur in 3 quarters instead of 4.
Right, exactly. Well, but also the way that they were shooting, there's no way Philly's keeping up with that anyway.
Right.
Like they, at one point, I think they were 18 for 30 from 3, Adam. Like an opposing team's not keeping up with that. So you're getting that production. It's just in a compressed period of time opposed to 4 quarters. Like, sure, exactly. Philly could keep up, and then you get your 60 in 4 quarters from Tatum, but you're right. How much do we want to get to Derek White, though? Last thing here, assuming Smart is out, and I think both of us are assuming that Marcus Smart is definitely out.
Yeah, I mean, I think he looks like the best option from Boston right now. He's just affordably priced. He's, a 0.9 to 1 fantasy point per minute guy, most likely playing with Tatum and Brown. And I would expect him to get 30 to 32 minutes if he doesn't have to play all the way down the stretch. If this game actually goes down to the wire, I would think he's probably playing like 34. So I think that, a 31, 32-minute projection for him is very fair.
Yeah, and Josh, if they're saying Smart's doubtful, I'm assuming they're just speculating. I agree that he's not going to play, but there's no official injury report on the second of a back-to-back. Paul DZ, thanks for the super
Anybody
chat.
that uses anybody, like, I know Greg will use Basketball Monster. They probably have him listed as doubtful, but that's so like Basketball Monster has Smart listed as doubtful. That's a Basketball Monster designation, not a Celtics. Not
official. It's speculation, and I agree with that.
Yeah, it's speculation that I agree with, but it's not on.
It's not official.
It's not from the Celtics.
Right. Like if you go to NBA.com, they're on the second of a back-to-back anyway, right? There's no shoot around. There's none of that. They don't have an injury report yet. So whatever. Paul DZ, 5-leg parlay last night, turned $10 into $216. Thanks for all the great advice, guys. Always keep an eye out for flying Bo-Berry biscuits. What's that mean?
Oh, you weren't on that show. Somebody threw a breakfast biscuit from Bojangles at one of our chat members while they were like in their car the other day during me and Josh's show.
Oh, for real?
Yeah.
That's great. I wonder why. Road rage?
I don't know. I don't remember the story. He said that he was pretty sure they were on meth.
There was a guy yesterday, right? And I either feel really bad for him or he's just junked out and withdrawing. going around my neighborhood. I live in a nice neighborhood, right? But he's like walking around, knocking on every door. He lives there. I'm not sure what house, but he's knocking on every door, asking them if they received a small package.
If this ends with you shooting him, you shouldn't tell him.
He's dead. No. A small package from USPS. Now, I've been around the block, Adam. You know, I've done some things. And I know when you are frantically ringing every doorbell at 8 p.m. at night, might have been even later, asking if they have received a package in somebody else's name, and it's a small package from USPS, I usually know what that means, right? You're getting some prescription pills from somewhere or some designer drug, you're doing some stuff, all right? And now they've got some ways out there to just like clone benzos and make them legal and send them through the mail. And this guy, by the time he got to the 5th or 6th door, he's struggling. It's a tough time getting up the steps, getting back down the steps. So he came to my house and asked us, like, yeah, I got it, pal, but the cops are on the way. That didn't happen. He never came to my door. But let me ask you something. Serious question. Like, what do you think was in that package that he was looking for?
So you're saying it was like later than 8 o'clock at night?
It was after 8, number one. Might have been like right around 8, right? But also like going to every door, like houses that are nowhere near his house, to make sure that the package had not been, delivered somewhere else.
So the other piece of information I need, the houses he was going to weren't near his house, but were they like the same house number on a different street?
No, he's just going down the block.
Okay. Then, yeah, I mean, I'm not as knowledgeable on pill deliveries as you are, but I think you're probably on the right track there.
Listen, what I'm saying is it's something sketchy, right? Like I don't get pills delivered to my house, but when you say it's a small package from USPS and you're really worried about this, something, unless he's ordering like Canadian pharmaceuticals for his son or something, then I just feel awful speculating. But I don't know. I think there's something going on. He wasn't even saying thank you when the people would go look, or when they said they didn't have it. He was just like grunting and walking. I don't know. Anyway, you ready to move on to Washington and Indy? I mean, what do you guys think it was? It could have been anything. But if it was like an Amazon package, Adam, here's what I'm getting at, right? Like if I ordered a new hat on Amazon, I'm probably just reporting it to Amazon that it didn't get delivered and then ordering a new one. You know what I mean?
Exactly. And at worst, you're going to go check at like 3 p.m. or something. And
right. Or I just go next door.
Right.
Or next door. Like,
right.
But this was something else.
Yeah, actually, when I first moved in, I ordered a desk from Amazon, and at the time they would deliver to one of the retail stores below my apartment. And then I would just go pick it up. And so I went and looked at one of them. It wasn't there. Didn't even know that they would deliver to the one to the right of me. But I just was like, yeah, I didn't get my desk. And then like 2 weeks later, I found out it was at the other store. But like, yeah, that was the amount of effort I put in.
Exactly. And that's appropriate. That's what I'm saying. But yeah, when he said USPS, I'm guessing, some form of opiates. Looked like he was kicking a little bit, maybe some benzos. I don't know, but fella was hurt. Hopefully you're feeling better, guy. All right, Washington and Indiana. Let's get to this one. Washington, 1-point dogs, 225.5 total. Pacers on the second of a back-to-back here at home. Let's start with Washington, though. Porzingis is out, and then we're still waiting on Loughy, who did not return to last game after playing only 10 minutes. Anything you want to get to here for Washington and a good matchup against just a decimated Pacers team?
Yeah, I mean, Kuzma, I think, still looks good. Obviously, he struggled some last game, but there should be a lot of opportunities for him. We've seen the assist rate go up recently. I expect that to continue, at least, in that direction without Dinwiddie and without Beal. Still played 37 minutes, so I think he still looks pretty good here in a good spot. Still only got like 20 minutes from Thomas Bryant, so that's a concern, even with Rui having left that game early. It just makes it really tough to think you're getting more than 20 to 22 minutes from Bryant. With his price tag elevating to 4,600, that becomes a pretty difficult sell. The point guard position is still somewhat interesting to me as well. Neto started, played 27, 28 minutes. Smith played the other 20 to 21. So exactly what we expected, but it's the same thing that we had talked about before. I think on average, as long as Neto remains in the starting lineup, you're getting 27 to 28 minutes from Neto. You're getting 20 to 21 from Smith. But if Smith plays well in his second half stint, he could conceivably play the end of the game and you end up getting like 25, 26 from Ish. So I don't mind kind of gambling on a $4,100 Smith, but also with this being an 11-game slate where we're expecting that there's a lot of value, I don't think that's going to end up being a priority for me. So really, I think it's mostly just Kuzma here.
Okay. Justin Sports says, motherfuckers love snitching on themselves these days. It's amazing. That was the biggest self-tell story I've heard in a while. I don't know if you're talking about him or me, but I haven't done drugs in like over a decade. No, 12 years, long time, pal. Long time. Everybody knows my story. But this guy, if you're talking about him, big time self-tell. Totally agree. Yeah. We had a super chat from Randall Robinson. Yo, hit a 1K to first on Yahoo last night. Saw Rimpact took down the 10K. Love you guys. Love the show and content. Awesemo's tool won me a lot of money. Keep doing the Lord's work, fellas. Congrats, Randall Robinson. Good stuff. Thanks for the super chat. How do you want to approach Indy today? There's just no way Brogdon plays, Adam. Why would they play him now if they're not going to, with the All-Star break approaching?
Yeah, I have absolutely no idea. I mean, it is the NBA, so it wouldn't be the first time they did something that makes absolutely no sense to me, but I'd be less surprised if Marcus Smart played today than if Malcolm Brogdon plays. And I'd be very surprised if Marcus Smart plays.
Agreed. I think both of them end up being out, but we'll see. I don't know. Buddy Hield's look good, man. This guy's chucking. He was like, what was he? 8 for 13 or something, from 8 for 12 from 3 yesterday.
Yeah, he made up for
1 for 13 the day before. But who cares, dude? He's now attempted in 3 games with the Pacers. He's attempted double-digit threes in every single one of those games. He's played 40, 40, and 37 minutes. I mean, I don't care about the efficiency 2 games ago. Give me that shot volume all day long and give me those minutes, dude. He's 6,000. That's why when we were talking about someone like Cole Anthony, I get it. But if I can get 40 minutes, 37 to 40 minutes out of Buddy Hield and, a 30% usage rate or whatever he's at, 28, I don't know.
He's at like 20.
There's no way he's at 20%.
He was at 20 with the Pacers going into yesterday.
Maybe just because he's playing so many. Oh, he's not getting to the line at all either. Okay. But still, 40 minutes, he's attempted 17, 19, and 20 shots, 10, 13, and 12 threes. I don't know. To me, it's hard not to like Buddy Hield against Washington today.
Yeah, I agree with you. The minutes, the fact on DraftKings too, he has shooting guard and small forward eligibility, so it's pretty easy to get him into lineups. On FanDuel, he's 6K with shooting guard, small forward as well. Not quite as valuable there since you don't get the 3-point bonus, but it's a ton of minutes. It's a good spot. To the point you were just making, the usage rate still isn't high. It's 22%.
Similar to I just looked it up.
Yeah, it's similar to what he was doing in Sacramento. But if you're playing 38 to 40 minutes, it doesn't matter. You're getting up, 12 to 15 3-pointers in a game. That's going to look pretty good. So, yeah, I'm with you. I think Hield still looks like a pretty solid option.
Aside from that, I mean, we're still waiting to see what else is going on. Jalen Smith got in foul trouble, constant foul trouble yesterday. Still salvaged, though, which was mighty impressive. I don't know if he starts again today and he's not in foul trouble. What's he, 3,900? I don't think it's crazy against Washington. Lance Stevenson, though, is the issue. He played 3 minutes, came back, ended up playing 19 minutes, wasn't out there towards the end of the game, didn't start, all of that good stuff. Where are you at on Lance Stevenson today? Because that worried me a bit.
Pay attention to the ownership. So as far as Jalen Smith, if he starts again, I'm going right back there. He was up there with Tyus Jones yesterday as my highest owned guy. And I mean, he's a 1.08 fantasy point per minute guy this season. He only played 17 minutes before he fouled out. Still got you 25 points. Not that you can really predict foul trouble that easily anyway, but less likely to be in foul trouble against a Washington front court that does not have Giannis than against a Milwaukee front court that does. I would expect him, if he's not in foul trouble, to be playing 26, 28 minutes here. So I'd be going right back to Jalen Smith. Lance Stevenson, just pay attention to the ownership on him because we know that we know the playing time is risky. And I felt that way yesterday, but I wasn't that confident in it because they are so shorthanded that, I thought you would see him play a lot or play more than he did. But 2 games ago, well, 3 games ago now, the game where Duarte was in, you only got 12 minutes from Stevenson. And we have seen Indiana not really prioritize playing Stevenson a lot this year when they can help it. Typically, when he gets a lot of minutes, it's more so been like games where he's playing well, and then they just let him keep going. So I think that's the risk. But at the same time, at 3,800, if Lance Stevenson only plays 20 minutes, he still actually projects decently. And if he's playing well, he could easily play 26, 28 and just be somebody you have to have. Right now, we have him at 8% ownership. I don't know if that is assuming Brogdon is in or not. But if Lance Stevenson comes in the 8 to 10% range, I think he should be, he becomes a really good tournament play because he still absolutely has slate breaking potential at that price.
Very, very reasonable way to look at that for sure. Oh, hit that thumbs up. Where are we at? We're 99. We got 461 people watching, 99 likes. One more to get there. Yeah, you know, I feel like when we talk about this next game, Brooklyn and New York, you say, you know, pay attention to ownership on someone like Lance Stevenson. I feel similarly about Bruce Brown, and for a different reason. Bruce Brown's coming off a very good game, and he played big minutes. But so the minutes there, if he's going to play that many minutes, if he's going to play huge minutes, I'm all about it. But he shot 8 for 12, Adam. He had 6 rebounds, 6 assists, 3 blocks, 5 steals. He had 8 total stocks. This is, you know, as good, as efficient a game that you're ever going to get from Bruce Brown. Now, that isn't to say that at this price you need that, right? You get 30 from him here, you're feeling pretty good about it. But what happens if Bruce Brown, who has been, you know, wildly underwhelming all season long, even with a lot of these guys, and he's not horrible. He's not like a 0.5 per minute guy. But what if his ownership keeps surging throughout the day and everyone's getting to the cheap Bruce Brown?
Right. It's the biggest concern for me with Bruce Brown doesn't even really have to do with Bruce Brown. It has to do with Steve Nash. Last game, like you got 38 minutes from Brown. David Duke Jr. wasn't in the rotation at all. That I assume that'll be the case today. It doesn't have to be. You got 26 minutes from Cameron Thomas. He potentially plays more. You know, James Johnson only played 19. We've seen plenty of games where he plays 26. Steve Nash's rotations just aren't consistent enough that I think it's a lock that Brown plays 38 minutes again. At 4K, you don't need that either. Like if he plays 28 to 30, he's probably fine. I think he's a good play. I do agree with you, though, with it being an 11-game slate and one where we're probably going to have plenty of value, that you do want to pay close attention to that ownership. Because, for example, like Bruce Brown right now, 20%. I don't necessarily think that that's too high, but I don't really think Bruce Brown should be twice as popular as Lance Stevenson. The just ridiculous ceiling that Lance Stevenson gives you if he gets minutes. Like, is Brown the guy that I would play in a cash game over Stevenson? Sure, because I feel better about the minutes. But there's, like, if you played this slate out 1,000 times, I think there's a lot of iterations where, like, Bruce Brown plays 28 minutes and Stevenson plays 26. And if that's the case, you definitely want Stevenson.
For sure. Patty Mills has been, and by the way, that last game was against Sacramento too. So I'm not saying New York is the best team in the league, but this is a much, much less enticing matchup just from a pace standpoint alone. But dude, Patty Mills has been brutal lately. He scored single digits in 4 straight games, despite playing big minutes. That's the crazy part. Like Mills is coming out playing 32, 35 minutes and just been completely non-existent.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at his numbers for the season without Irving, Durant, and Harden, the opportunities are there. He's just been insanely inefficient. He's played 248 minutes without those guys on the floor, 24% usage rate, 44.1% true shooting, 0.86 DraftKings points per minute. It makes me still like getting to him because the opportunities are there. It's just an efficiency issue, and you know that that's going to at least increase a little bit. The concern I have is that part of the reason that he's averaged 0.86 DraftKings points per minute despite the poor shooting is a 23.5% assist percentage. Now you have Seth Curry there that's likely to cut into that. I think you're going to see more, Mills off ball, Curry handling the ball, and Mills basically turning into just like a 3-point shooter. So I don't think the floor is quite as high for Mills as it typically was. But at 5,100, I still think he's going to get shot volume, especially if he's knocking them down. I still think that, there's a ceiling there, but Curry does lower his floor.
And with the way, yeah, for sure. The way he's been playing, there's no doubt that he's going to be far less popular than he was super chalky the other day, and that was still a sizable slate. So I think it was like 9 games or something the other day that Brooklyn was.
Yeah, it was 9.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's that. But if you look at this, right, Bruce Brown had 80 touches last game. Seth Curry, and stat doesn't mean anything, but just to give you an idea of the involvement here, Seth Curry's 68 touches in this game, was very involved. Drummond was third. Mills was down there. This is significant to me, man. He played 32 minutes, had 37 touches in the game. So, I mean, he's really just not a primary ball handler at this point at all. His time of possession was less than half of Curry and Bruce Brown in terms of seconds per touch. All of that stuff just shows me right there that Patty Mills, you're going to need shot volume from him, because with these reinforcements, you're not getting the type of production as a playmaker right now.
Yeah, which is a massive concern, because like one of the reasons that I liked going to Patty Mills without all of these guys was that if you can shoot 44% and still average close to a fantasy point per minute, that tells you like that the floor is really high. But that floor was based on him having the ball in his hands and getting assists even when he can't shoot. If you're going to turn him into a spot up 3-point shooter and you can't count on him to make his threes, then you're talking about someone that, yes, he could still go for like 35 DraftKings points if he knocks them down. But if he doesn't, you're talking about like basically Duncan Robinson.
Exactly. And that scares me. Those numbers are it's only one game, but you get a good idea of that game of what his role was. So with that in mind, how do you target the rest of Brooklyn? This is where it gets interesting.
So, I mean, I like Curry. I think that I don't expect him to carry a 30% usage rate for very long, but last game, 29.9% usage, 31.3% assist percentage. He's only $600 more than Mills. We know that he is a knockdown 3-point shooter. And if he's going to have the ball in his hands, one, that just leads to increased usage because he's the one with the ball in his hands. He can shoot whenever he wants. And two, he's going to get plenty of assist opportunities. We saw that in Philly, not to the extent that we did in his first game with Brooklyn, but like in games where Embiid was out and, the Sixers were shorthanded, Curry can take on a more traditional point guard role and make plays.
12 potential assists last game, led the team by more than 3.
Yeah, so I mean, I think 5,700 is probably fair, maybe a little low. It's not like I'm looking at it saying, I need Seth Curry in all of my lineups or anything, but I do like Curry here. I like Drummond. He played 24 minutes. We know that he's a good point per minute guy. The matchup isn't ideal, but at 5,800, I still think that he looks pretty good. The only concern is that it is tough for him to get more minutes, I think. Like last game, you got about 24 for him. Aldridge played 20. Griffin played 4. Maybe like Griffin doesn't play and it goes 28-20 in Drummond's favor, but I think it's more likely that you start to just see like 24-24 between him and Aldridge. So the 24 minutes is not ideal, but at 5,800, I still think that he looks decent.
The question here is 24 minutes his ceiling? They did lose about 2 minutes towards the end of that game, where the only starter to close it out was Kessler Edwards. So maybe you get 26, unless you think like LaMarcus closes it out. But if it is Drummond closing out a close game tonight, then you're getting around 26, maybe 27. And that actually looks a whole lot better, just given how good of a per minute producer he is.
Yeah, I mean, projection wise, I'll probably stick at 24 just because there's some chance that Aldridge plays a couple more minutes somewhere else. And I mean, like for what it's worth, Aldridge closed the first half, which it didn't look like he was going to close the second half, but who knows? I think that medium projection wise, 24 is where I'll be at for Drummond. But I agree with you. Like there's still some chance that he plays a couple of more minutes. If there wasn't, I would project him lower.
Yeah. I mean, based on his current rates, 24 minutes for Drummond is still north of 30 fantasy points. So anything else is just ice. You want more than 30. I'm not saying that, but anything else is icing on the cake, just hoping that he has a good game here. What do you want to do with the Knicks, starting with Randall? You mentioned this last show. Someone in chat mentioned it last show. Randall without RJ Barrett has been unreal, man. I mean, he did not shoot particularly well last game. Towards the end of that game and in overtime, you could credit a lot of the struggles to Julius Randle just not hitting shots, but still finished with 30, 13, and 10. Again, it was an overtime game, but another huge performance, man. And he's just been crushing with Barrett out. He's still sub 10K against the Nets.
Yeah, he has like a 30% usage rate without Barrett on the floor this year. Looks really good here. I mean, we know the Nets not the best team defensively, and Randall just gets increased opportunities without Barrett. Makes him look good at, like you said, a sub 10K salary. Basically the same price point as Jason Tatum. Another guy that, like, yes, Tatum certainly can beat Julius Randle in any given game, but Randall, I think, projects better at that price.
I like him a lot today, man. It's not a bad spot at all, and
1.18 DraftKings points per minute in 639 minutes without Barrett this season.
Okay. Yeah. And he's got triple double upside too. So
yeah, 26% assist percentage in those minutes to go along with a 30% usage rate and a 15.5% rebounding percentage.
I can live with that. Brooklyn over the last month, 120 defensive rating. It's just, it's bad. And it's not like Drummond's going to anchor the defense outside of rebounding. What else do you want to do with the Knicks? We going back to Quentin Grimes?
Screw that guy. He's still fine here. Like, his salary jumped to 4,100 where it should have been anyway. He's playing a ton of minutes, or has played a ton of minutes. I think that he still looks fine. Like, that's the assumption here should be that Grimes plays a lot. Once again, I think you have to keep in mind that there's no guarantee there. If he's not playing well, you can always see him play less. But I would expect 34 to 36 minutes on average at 4,100 makes him look fine just based on the playing time. Robinson at 5,900, I think is decent. Like, I think Drummond projects a little bit better, but if you're going to get an ownership gap between those two, I think Robinson makes some sense as a pivot. Right now we have Robinson at 2%. We have Drummond at 13. That's not a spot that I mind getting to. Kemba is better without Barrett on the floor as well. Still only 4,600. His playing time is always somewhat of a concern. Didn't play at all in the fourth quarter or overtime last game, but he did still get to about 26 minutes without Barrett on the floor this year. Kemba's averaged 1.09 DraftKings points per minute. His usage rate's 3 to 4 points higher without Barrett as well. So somebody you can take a shot on at relatively low ownership at 4,600, but not any sort of priority. Priority-wise here, I would say it's Randall, and then depending on what other value opens up, Quentin Grimes.
We got free content on the site today. NBA player rankings, totally free. PGA rankings, free. NHL ownership projections, all of that is free. So yeah, be sure to check that out. If you want to get access to everything else we have, though, awesemo.com/join. All of our tools built by Awesemo himself. You know who he is. Won a lot of money playing, using these tools. So a lot of people that use these tools daily. We got the premium Discord chat as well. Office hours where we answer all of your questions with the pros helping you better your game. Boom bust tool, ownership projections, player projections, top stack tool for all sports too, not just basketball. Every single sport. If there's contests out there for them, we have content for it. You also have NASCAR Daytona 500 coming up. We have the green flag promo, awesemo.com/promos, where you get everything for NASCAR for the entire year for $70. That's $2 a race. Ownership projections, driver projections, top driver tool, everything we have. So awesemo.com/promos for that. If you just want to get in on everything we have, whether you want to do a week, a month, a year, a real investment, you want to do one sport, just basketball, or all of them, awesemo.com/join, and you can figure out what's right for you, no matter what your budget, what style of play, we got you. But yeah, also some free content on the site today. And be sure to check out PGA Live before lock tonight, 8 p.m. for tomorrow's slate. I think it's like 5 a.m. where they tee off. All right, Adam, Sacramento. Let's get into this one.
Hang on, one other thing, and this
go ahead.
This isn't super useful. I'm kind of just wasting time mentioning it probably, but I did see it come up in chat, and I actually think it's a reasonable thought. It would be a lot more interesting if this were a smaller slate, but Josh Gillum said he thinks James Johnson's going to start. I don't think James Johnson starts. I do think there's a good chance James Johnson plays more minutes because of Julius Randle. Okay. And this just goes back to the people are saying that they think Aldridge and Drummond are going to play alongside each other because of Robinson Randle. I mean, there's a greater than 0% chance that happens. If it does, Julius Randle probably goes nuts and the Knicks destroy the Nets because they have no spacing or defense. So I think it's more likely that you see James Johnson get extra run to try and deal with Randle.
Yeah, James Johnson's at least athletic.
Yeah, and to clarify, because this guy is out of his mind, I don't think Aldridge is getting minutes over Drummond. I think Aldridge is getting 20 to 22 minutes, and they're not going to play alongside each other, which, because 48 minus 20 to 22 is 26 to 28, means you can't get that many minutes from Drummond.
Right. Brian. Oh, okay, Brian. PJ locks at 940. Maybe I was thinking of last week. I don't know. Let's talk about the Kings and the Bulls here. Kings 5.5-point dogs against Chicago, 232.5 total. We've had De'Aaron Fox back for a little bit now. Domantas Sabonis, all of these guys. DiVincenzo had, we talked about this yesterday, solid game off the bench for them last time out. And Jeremy Lamb is questionable. So, I mean, if Lamb plays, it just muddies the water even more. But I don't know. This is one of those teams now where you have Sabonis, you have Fox, Barnes continuing to play a good amount of minutes. But ultimately, where do you go with the Kings, even though they're a fast-paced team that makes for good matchups on both sides?
Mostly Sabonis, a little bit of Fox. It's really difficult to get to anything else, I think, because of how deep this rotation is. Like, from a DFS standpoint, I would really like them to just get rid of Mo Harkless or cut Holiday's minutes or something. We did see Harkless only play about 18 minutes last game. I think that's a step in the right direction. And like you'd said, you got 26 from DiVincenzo. Makes it so like at 3,900, you can roll the dice on DiVincenzo, but on a slate this big, I think you're just going to find much better value options that you can feel better about. I don't really see a whole lot that stands out, with the exception of Sabonis at 8,900, still likely to play 34 minutes or so. Only played about 25 last game, but we saw about 34 in the previous games. There's no reason to think he's suddenly going to start playing 26 minutes a night. His rates have still been good since coming to the Kings. And then similarly, Fox has basically maintained the usage he was getting earlier in the year before Sabonis came over. He's still likely to give you 34 to 36 minutes. So I think both of those guys look good. I just have a difficult time getting anywhere else.
Okay. Gregory, we know Aldridge can play the four. He was a four for for a large start of his majority of his career.
I'm not sure he's played a minute at the four all season.
Right. I'm saying we know that he can because he's done it with the Spurs. That was a long time ago, but he did it for a while. Your point isn't that he can't play the four. It's that if you're putting him alongside Drummond at the four, this isn't 10 years ago, Bask. Like if you're putting him and Drummond at the four, it's just not, or I'm sorry, in the front court alongside, it's just not a good combination. You're not saying it can't happen. You're saying it's a bad idea.
Yeah, and so he has played more than 0 minutes. He's played 21 minutes all season alongside Nick Claxton. He's played 31 minutes all season alongside Blake Griffin.
Not a lot of minutes.
And he's played 0 minutes alongside Daron Sharp.
Yeah. And now you bring a guy in like Drummond. So, I mean, whatever. It's not even worth talking about. But yes, of course, he can play if he needs to at the four. Just not wise. You like anybody from
Holy
Chicago?
shit, Drummond can defend Randall?
What's that?
Somebody said they think Drummond can defend Randall.
And good luck.
I'm not sure Drummond can defend the guy that said that.
No, man. He's a good rebounder, though.
He is. Right. He's a great fantasy producer.
I know. Doesn't translate to defense. You like anything from the Bulls? You're going to go back to the well with DeRozan today?
Yeah, I like DeRozan. I like Vooch. Still no Levine. Bump in usage rate. DeRozan's at like 35, 36% this year without Levine on the floor. Vooch is around 30%. Both guys average about 1.3 DraftKings points per minute. Now you get a really good matchup against Sacramento where they should produce at an above average rate as well. And then you also get Dosunmu and Kobe White. Dosunmu about a 27% assist percentage in the games he's played without Lonzo and Levine. Kobe White should play 36 to 38 minutes at 6,400. Both of those guys look good. Certainly not the same raw point ceiling that you get from DeRozan and Vooch, but also a lot less expensive. Javonte Green, Troy Brown, both decent, like last guy in pieces. But I would say Vooch and DeRozan are at the top here, followed by Dosunmu, followed by White, and then a gap where you get to Green and Brown.
Okay. Legion, we don't act as if we're the only ones who watch basketball.
No, I just act like you're wrong. I don't care if you watch basketball or not.
Right. It's just not a good. Okay. We gotta keep moving here anyway. No House Advantage. Shout out to our sponsor, No House Advantage. I would say you should check it out because they have 100% peer-to-peer player prop platform, levels the playing field, over 500 player props offered, and all new users get a $25 deposit bonus when you use the promo code Awesemo, AWESEMO. That's all of you. You can use mass entries, big prize pools. And for those of you that are unfamiliar with it, you're building lineups, right? You're building lineups, but with player props. So all the research and everything you do throughout the day, all the shows you watch with us, for DFS purposes, you can translate and parlay all of that information into building lineups over at No House Advantage. So the ones you like the most, the props you're most confident in, you could go over there, put them at the top of your lineup. They get the most points. The ones you're least confident in go at the bottom. They get the fewest points. And we have a free No House Advantage player prop tool and No House Advantage projections over at Awesemo. They're free every day of the week. We have the optimal lineup tool specifically for No House Advantage to help you take down big prizes as well. You can go to nohouseadvantage.com, download it in the App Store, or go to or download it in the Google Play Store, wherever you want. And as our good friend Ben Rasa always points out, static props, they don't change throughout the day. So you give yourself an opportunity there to find some, compare them to ours on our tools over at Odd Shopper, which is also totally free, and get an edge at No House Advantage and start winning some money. So use the promo code Awesemo, AWESCMO, get the $25 deposit bonus, start playing over there, start winning some money, use those tools to help you as well. They'll always be free to you guys on top of that. All right, Adam, let's move this one we'll move this along here to Portland and Memphis. Blazers 11.5-point dogs. I don't know if Morant's going to play yet. We'll see. Milwaukee that was just an embarrassing loss at home, even without Giannis. But here we are. Josh Hart, huge game last time out. Yusuf Nurkic, Anthony Simons. Anybody stand out to you here that you want to get to for Portland today as big road dogs?
Not really. I think this is a team that's more so like last piece in for tournaments, because when you talk about Yusuf Nurkic, when you talk about Anthony Simons, Justice Winslow to a lesser extent, same for Hart, we know that they can have big games. Like they're not at price points where they, it would be shocking if they exceed it, but they're at price points that are probably a little bit higher than they should be, if not, fair, on a slate where there's a lot of guys that are underpriced. So like Nurkic at 8,800, sure, he can go get 50 and you're going to be happy, but there's a lot of guys that you can get to that are more likely to do that and, more favorably priced. Same for Simon, same for Winslow. So in this spot, tough spot on the road at Memphis, double-digit dogs, outside of just sort of rounding out a lineup with, hey, I need a low-owned guy that could do really, really well. I don't really see much from Portland.
Okay. Do you see anything nice from Memphis? Obviously,
Yes.
If Morant's out, you just don't have really any other choice but to play Tyus Jones. Like, I don't really care how popular he is at this point, Adam. His price has come down since yesterday, played 32 minutes, and now he's got an equally, if not better, matchup against the Blazers, or against Portland. Like, how do you not go right back to the well with Tyus, regardless of ownership?
I don't think there's an answer. I think I had like 80% Tyus yesterday, and even right out of the gate, I was like, this is too low. This is stupid. But yeah, it's such an easy play at 3,100. If Morant is out, obviously if Morant's in, don't go there. But if he's out, going back to last year, he's averaged like 30.5 minutes per game in his starts without Morant. He's like a 0.9 to 1 fantasy point per minute guy. It's a good matchup. Like, it's just a ridiculously easy play. I saw somebody mention wanting to pivot off of Grimes or Jones. I don't think those are comparable things. I think Grimes at 4,100 is like a good value, but pivotable. I think Jones at 3,100 is like, barring injury, I don't think it's possible for him to truly fail when you consider what else it gets into your lineup.
I'm willing to say that it's about as good as value plays get. It's at least like 99th percentile. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's not, you're not going to find anything in like the $3,500 or below range. Unless we get like another team ruled out or something, you're not going to find anything that gives you remotely comparable playing time and the per minute production to Tyus Jones.
If there's tiers, it's like Andre Drummond over, in for Embiid, who's out, and Drummond's at this price. And then the next tier would be a Tyus Jones in for, Ja Morant against Portland. So
right.
That's the way I see it. We don't know if Morant plays, but this is their last game before the All-Star break. Second of a back-to-back. He was a true game time decision yesterday. I think it's very possible that he does sit. So not saying he will, but in the event that he does, you guys know exactly what to do.
Yeah, so that one's tough because like you could make the logic argument either way. Like, one, it's the last game before break, he sits, or two, he sat yesterday, precautionary front end of a back-to-back.
Sure, so. Right. I know. That's why I'm not saying one way or the other, but it's tough to say. It's crazy too, because if he were to sit, Jaren Jackson has great per minute numbers, 30+ percent usage without Morant. Played 25 minutes yesterday though, and got up 20 shots and went to the line 5 times. I mean, he was chucking, but the minutes there are just so underwhelming. If Morant was out today and Jaren Jackson was playing 30 plus minutes, he'd be one of my favorite plays on the slate.
Yeah, I mean, as is, I think you kind of just have to assume he's playing like 27, 28. It's been a really frustrating year as far as DFS with Jackson, because it's like, even for the most part this year, there was a stretch where this wasn't the case. But for the most part, it's been like, even when he's not in foul trouble, you have to worry about his minutes being yanked around for, I don't know the reason. Memphis is good enough that I'm not saying that the reason is wrong. I just don't know what it is. But it used to be kind of like, if he's in foul trouble, he's not going to play a lot. But if he's not in foul trouble, you're getting 32 or 33 minutes. That's not the case now, which makes it even riskier. But like you said, without Morant and Brooks on the floor this year, Jackson has a 33% usage rate in 494 minutes, 1.33 DraftKings points per minute. Give him 26 minutes against Portland, and he's still going to look pretty good. Desmond Bane, 1.13 DraftKings points per minute, 6,400 here, so a nice price drop for him. If Morant is out, I like Jackson. I like Bane. Obviously, I like Jones. Melton at 4,900 playing 22 to 24 minutes would look okay as well. If Morant's in, Jackson, Bane, we know they still have upside. They're still okay in tournaments, but they're not priorities. Morant at 10-2 would look good to me. It's still like, I would get to Trae Young first at 9,300, but Morant is still like a 1.4 fantasy point per minute guy in a good matchup.
Toronto, Minnesota. Van Vliet is questionable here with that knee. Right? Injured that knee, didn't come back on Monday. Like, this is one of those spots where I just think it makes sense to rest him. Maybe you have a different opinion than I do, but I'd be a little surprised if Van Vliet was out there, unless it's really just a super, super minor thing and it was precautionary that they held him out on Monday.
Yeah, I think it's reasonable to think that he probably doesn't play. I don't feel as strongly on him as I do on like Smart or
no, of course
Brogdon.
not. Well, and Smart's back to back as well. You know, Brogdon hasn't played in a month.
Right. But yeah, I mean, it's easy enough to know what to do with Toronto also in that situation. Like, if Van Vliet's in, you're just getting the same thing. You're getting, 38 minutes or so from Van Vliet, probably 39 from Siakam, 36 to 37 from Anunoby and Trent, probably a minute or two less from Barnes. And they all just look good. Siakam's salary has dropped to 9,300. He looks good with or without Van Vliet. If Van Vliet's out, Siakam looks better. The assist percentage jumps without Van Vliet. He basically becomes the de facto point guard. So one or the other, I like Siakam, like him more if Van Vliet's out. Van Vliet at 8,600 looks good to me, assuming he's in and good to go. If he's out, you most likely get Precious Achiuwa in the starting lineup. He plays somewhere between 12 and 24 minutes. Played like 13 last game when he started. You have Birch in the rotation now. You have Boucher. So those are guys that can cut into his playing time as well. Boucher probably plays around 24 minutes. If Van Vliet is out at 4,500, that would be decent. If Van Vliet's in, I don't think you get enough minutes from Boucher to want to get there. So basically, if Van Vliet's in, all the starters look fine. I think Siakam and Van Vliet look like the top two. If Van Vliet is out, Siakam looks a lot better. Trent looks a lot better. His usage rate gets up to like 26 to 28%. And then you can take shots on guys like Chris Boucher too.
How many minutes do you think if Van Vliet ends up sitting that we would get from Flynn here? Last game, Van Vliet missed the game just like 6 days ago.
Flynn played 22.
Yeah, Siakam had foul trouble. He had 4 fouls to start the half. Like his second half rotation, his first second half rotation had 4 fouls, so that was 5. So his minutes were limited in that game. But if Van Vliet sits, would you have any interest in Flynn? Definitely if like Morant plays and we don't have Tyus Jones.
Right. So it's playable. We've seen games. You shouldn't have any confidence, but it can work out. Basically, we've seen games where Van Vliet's out this year, and typically Banton's actually been ahead of Flynn.
Yeah, he played 20 in that game.
Right. But like you've seen games where Banton was getting, 20 minutes, and then other games where he wasn't getting enough. Like I think he had a game he played 26, then a game he played like 17. And then, like last game, like you said, you got 22 from Flynn. But even then it was like a weird rotation where Flynn subbed in at the start of the second and the start of the fourth. Banton played 20 minutes there as well. I think that they're risky, but at 3K flat or 3,100 in Banton's case, you could roll the dice. A lot just depends on what else opens up. Like you said, if Tyus Jones is in, I not messing with the Toronto guys as pivots. I don't think they're remotely
Yeah.
the same. But if Jones is out and it's a situation where, it's like, oh, well, I want to get Morant, I want to get Young, and I need a 3K guy somewhere and nothing else is open up, then sure.
Okay. Yeah, that's where I'm at as well. It makes sense. How about Minnesota here? Here's another one where I'm just talking about potential guys sitting out, second of a back-to-back, last game before the All-Star break. Edwards had that sprained right ankle yesterday, played only 18 minutes, didn't return. They end up losing that game in overtime. I'm sorry, winning that game in overtime against Charlotte. Let me tell you something. If Edwards is out, how do we not want to get to Jaden McDaniels? That dude smoked off the bench yesterday, started the second half in place of Edwards. Just an absolutely phenomenal performance. And while he hasn't been a great permanent guy on the season, he's capable of lifting, of picking up some peripheral stats at times as well. So if Edwards sits, how do you approach? I don't think he's playing. Do you?
I would guess no, just because he's been dealing with the knee injury anyway, and then left yesterday's game. I actually had to look because I didn't know what Jaden McDaniels ended up doing yesterday. I couldn't tell if you were being extremely sarcastic or
that was a great game.
Yeah, no, it was.
Oh, okay, you thought I was, yeah.
But because I know what McDaniels does on average, I thought I was going to open this and see he played like 30 minutes and didn't score or something.
No, 37 minutes too.
Yeah, played all of overtime.
I know, but would have been 32 in regulation.
Yeah.
Without.
Yeah, no, like if Edwards is out, McDaniels does look like a good, cheap value. It's nice because he's a wing too. So like potentially you're going to have such strong point guard positions. Like if Morant's out, you basically lose a point guard spot because you have Tyus Jones. Then you have Trae Young, you have Cole Anthony, you have like so many guys that we've talked about. So getting value forwards is pretty appealing. McDaniels would probably play 30 to 32 minutes. He would look fine at 3,500. Russell would look a bit better without Edwards. So would Towns. You have more usage to go around. Beverly at 5,100 is fine one way or the other. Not the most appealing matchup here, but still a 114 total for Minnesota. So if Edwards is in, I think it's kind of just like get a little bit of Towns, Russell, Edwards, Beverly. Nobody really stands out. If Edwards is out, I think McDaniels looks good. I think Russell looks better. And then Towns and Beverly are still decent options.
And again, when it comes to McDaniels, because he's not the greatest per minute guy, what I'm saying is if everything breaks to where Morant plays and all of these, a lot of other questionable guys end up playing, but Edwards is out, then he looks like a good value. And I'm assuming ownership will reflect that as well. So much of this is just going to come down to how many of these guys don't play.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And anything else that you want to hit on for Minnesota?
Yeah, well, actually, Toronto. I think I misunderstood. Josh Gillum said in chat he thinks Trent Jr. starts at point guard and they go big versus Cat. If Van Vliet is in, Siakam's starting at center. Like they're not moving any of those guys to the bench. And if Van Vliet is out, they always go to Achua. Or it's been Achua, but they use that same lineup regardless of who is in or out.
Okay, fair enough. Spurs, OKC. Get into this one a little bit. Spurs are 7.5 point favorites on the road against the Oklahoma City Thunder. I guess the first question now is, with Derek White gone, we've begun to see a little bit we're starting to see what this rotation is going to look like. Vassell has continued to start games. Adam, he played 24 minutes last time. That was kind of my concern in that spot. I don't know how much of it was just game flow related or what, but with Richardson in, I don't know how much.
Richardson didn't even play.
Wait, Richardson didn't play last game?
No.
I thought I was looking at it. I thought he did. Okay. So what was the reason for Vassell? Was it, you had said you thought it was going to be Keldon Johnson that takes who did you say you thought could take minutes away from Vassell last game if he lost minutes?
Richardson. But then Richardson, they said he was active but not playing.
For some reason I thought he'd play. Okay. So 24 minutes from Vassell. What do you make really of this Spurs team? Yeah, that's my fault.
Yeah, so I haven't seen what Richardson's status is here. Like if he's still not going to play, he's not on the injury report. Trey Jones is doubtful, but I still think more often than not, you're getting around 30 minutes from Vassell. My expectation was if Richardson plays that he would mostly cut into Walker and Primo. Last game without him, you got almost 26 minutes from Walker. You got 20 from Primo. Keita Bates-Diop played 13. I think if Richardson does play, he cuts into those guys before Vassell. And then as long as Vassell's playing reasonably well, you're still looking at 28 to 30 minutes from him. So I think he's okay at 5K. I still think the priority here is DeJounte Murray at 11K, about 1.6 DraftKings points per minute. without White this year. Good matchup against OKC. I'm perfectly fine getting back to him at that salary. The one concern is that, again, there's just so much opportunity cost at point guard today when Trae Young is $1,700 less expensive playing without John Collins, when you potentially have Tyus Jones at $3,100. So I do really like Murray, but you do, and I think especially on FanDuel, actually, I think does he have shooting guard eligibility on FanDuel?
Oh, Murray?
Yeah.
I tell
Yeah,
you
he
right
does.
now.
Yeah.
He does. Okay.
Okay. Yeah. I was going to say it becomes really difficult there, but it doesn't. So Murray still looks, really good. I think he's one of the best point guard options. Pirtle at 7K looks fine in the spot. I would say it's Murray number one for me, followed by Pirtle, followed by like Vassell Johnson.
Man, that projected ownership that we have on Aaron Wiggins right now is horrifying. We have him at like 47% on DraftKings, minimum salary.
That's a lot.
Isaiah Roby's up there. Pokusevski's kind of up there. Baisley. What do you want to do with OKC, man?
Yeah, I mean, we got 34 minutes in regulation from Wiggins last game.
If Lou Dort's out, by the way. Sorry if I didn't mention that. Lou Dort and Kenrich Williams are both out. And Ty Jerome.
So, I mean, that does help solidify the minutes, especially Williams being out as well because he played 28 minutes last game. So
Ty Jerome too.
Yeah, I mean, they're actually shorthanded here, which is nice because a lot of times with OKC, the issue you run into is that they just have a bunch of interchangeable, not very good players, and it's really tough to trust their minutes. But with those guys out, I think it's very likely you're getting 34 minutes or so again from Wiggins. He's not a great point per minute guy, but he can do more without Dort and without SGA. So I think he makes sense as a value. It's kind of like Quentin Grimesy from last slate, I guess, where I don't think there's a great chance that he scores enough raw points that I have to have him, but it's still a really good value and likely to just open up a lot of stuff for you, especially because he's a wing as well. For the season, 2/3 of a fantasy point per minute for Wiggins. Even if you assume he produces around that rate, if he plays 34 minutes, he's going to look very good at 3K. Isaiah Roby started last game, even with Derek Favors active. Roby played 22 minutes, Favors played 20. I think it's likely you get Roby again in that 22 to 24 minute range. He's 3,400. He's not a bad point per minute guy. For the season, he's a 0.91 DraftKings points per minute. So I think that's another good value piece. Pokusevski should play a good amount with all of those guys out. He only played 20 minutes last game, but I think he plays more here with everyone basically sidelined. So all those guys look good. Trey Mann at 4,900 is not the same level of value. I think he's priced about where he should be. Baisley's played really well at 6,500. I still have a hard time getting there. I think he's just kind of priced for what he's been doing. And then it's worth noting, Josh Giddey, 39 minutes last game, including overtime. This is someone that 3 or 4 games ago, they said they want to start limiting him to 30 minutes for the foreseeable future. That happened like once or twice. Then he played 33. Then he played 34. I'm not saying you project him for like 34 minutes necessarily, but I don't think they're actually limiting him to 30.
He's played 738 minutes without SGA this year, 1.12 DraftKings points per minute, but 37% assist rate, 24% usage rate, 14% rebound rate. He's got back-to-back triple doubles. He's been playing really well. So like you said, if Giddey were to come out and that was an overtime game. So, if he comes out and plays another 32, 33 minutes in this spot, I think there's a high ceiling, but his price is coming up a lot, Adam. I guess that's the only thing. Like, you want to talk about opportunity cost with somebody like this. How do you prioritize Giddey would be the question. I guess you can in tournaments, but
I don't think you can prioritize him. I
think prioritize him, but I mean, like, get a little bit over the field on someone like this if you're trying to, I don't know.
He falls into like the Anthony Simons category for me, I think, where like he very clearly has upside. He has a ceiling. Like you said, he's very good without Gilgeous-Alexander, but it's just tough to prioritize him. Or it's tough to want to get a lot of him when you have Trae Young, when you have whoever's starting a point guard for Memphis, when you have DeJounte Murray. If VanVleet plays, he's basically the same price. So I think it's just a case where, and then you do still have the risk with Giddey where they do actually limit his minutes. Again, I don't think it's super likely that happens, but he's also getting 9.5% ownership. I kind of just think he's a secondary option that I don't feel, I have a hard time wanting to get to him over some of these other options.
I don't disagree. The price is a little bit difficult there. All right, 3 to go. Let's talk about Houston and Phoenix here. Houston's got really nobody that's that's injured or out for any specific reason. And that's never fun just when it comes to a matchup against Phoenix, nonetheless. They're huge. What's the spread on this one? 16-point dogs here to the Suns. Nice 234 total, but you want to talk about priorities. How do you prioritize anything from Houston tonight?
You don't. I mean,
yeah.
Like Christian Wood's salary came down.
Yeah,
7,700 on Wood, like that's fine. You can get there. He has a ceiling, but tough matchup. Tough position on DraftKings. He only has center eligibility. On FanDuel, you get power forward eligibility at 8,200. So probably a little bit easier to get to him there. But I would expect around 32 minutes from Wood at 7,700. He looks like the best guy to me from Houston, but even that I think is going to be pretty difficult to get to.
Okay. What about with Phoenix? Huge. I mean, just huge favorites here. Best team in the league record-wise. Ayton, Booker, Paul. They're on the second of a back-to-back as well tonight. Not that it matters a whole lot, but do you like them?
Yeah, I think the Phoenix side looks good. This is a situation where, they're 15-point favorites. They also have a 125 total. If they blow Houston out to the point where they lose minutes, there's a good chance somebody was playing really, really efficiently. So all of Booker, Paul, Ayton, I think look good. I mentioned it yesterday. Paul's been averaging about 35 to 36 minutes per game in the games without Cameron Payne. Booker playing 36, 37 minutes on average. If this game actually comes down to the wire, you probably get more. But on average, you can expect 35, 36 minutes from those guys. They just are pretty fairly priced. And then Ayton should give you 28 to 30 minutes, most likely at 6,800. I think I probably like Ayton the most out of the group, actually.
Okay. Josh Gillum said Wood used to be good for DFS. Yeah, I mean, if his price tag sticks around in a mid 7K spot, he still will be good for DFS, Adam. Just, in better spots. I mean, this is one of the worst spots you can draw, especially.
Yeah, the issue with Wood is that, for one, his team gets blown out so much.
So often.
He's still good on a point per minute basis. He's at 1.2 DraftKings points per minute this year.
Right.
The couple of issues he has is, one, his team gets blown out a lot. Two, when they're using Şengün mostly as a backup, you typically are getting 32 minutes as opposed to 35, 36. So that's a problem. Then you combine that with the games where he plays 22 minutes because Houston gets destroyed. Wood is still very good for DFS. It's more of a team issue for him.
Yeah, in close games, you're getting 34 to 35 minutes from them. They're just never in close games.
Right.
Anything else for the Suns? You want to bang out these last two games here?
No, Crowder, Cam Johnson are okay, but I think we're just going to have better value today.
Okay. 10 likes away from 200 too. We'll get there. We'll get there in these two games. If you haven't done so, take that second. Only takes a second. Appreciate you in advance. Denver, Golden State. Not a huge spread here, 5.5 points. We'll talk about the Nuggets first, Adam, and go straight to the guy that everyone expects us to go to. Nikola Jokic. Nobody, though, really pulling ownership. Outside of Jokic, this team is essentially unowned. And honestly, if Monte Morris plays, they probably should be.
Yeah, I think that should be the case. I also think I thought I saw Morris wasn't playing. I thought last night. I thought I saw that last night. Obviously, I didn't. I'm looking at the injury report and it says questionable.
Yeah,
I just thought. Questionable. Yeah, I thought they had reported yesterday that he wasn't. I don't know who I'm thinking of.
Maybe it's another Morris. It's a lot of them.
Maybe, I don't know. Maybe I mixed him up with Lou Dort or something. I don't know. So there was definitely news last night that somebody wasn't playing that I was like, oh, I'll have to remember that. I thought it was Morris. I guess not. Either way, if Morris plays, I don't think that there's really anything here outside of Jokic. Obviously, if you can get to Jokic, that's great. We have him projected for 6% ownership right now, which I understand it because he's still only a center. You have so many other guys to pay up for as well that are still a lot cheaper than him. Even DeJounte Murray is $1,400 less than Jokic. So I understand why he wouldn't get a lot of ownership, but at the same time, we have the potential for so much value today. If Moran is out, you have Tyus Jones, you have Wiggins, you have, Grimes at 4K. You can get to Jokic if you want to. So I do still obviously like him here, even though I realize it's going to be difficult to get to. But if Morris is in, I don't really see much else. If Morris is out, you can take some shots at Bones Highland or Campazzo, not in the same lineups.
Chad with the super chat said, any tips on strategy for the 2-game late slate? Adam, he's not asking about specific plays, but saying salary limits on players per team, looking at a max 20 entry contest. So basically, quickly, how is it that you would normally approach, a 2-game slate like that?
Yeah, I mean, like, so nothing really changes for me strategy wise, other than, like on a 11 game slate, I'm not playing more than like two or three guys from the same team. Obviously, on a 2 game slate, I'm fine with going more than that. But for the most part, it's just like the strategy changes just naturally happen. Like, I'm going to get a lot more of like higher raw percentages of players, but that's just because there's less options to choose from. But I basically just run the same process I always do. And let it work out how it works out. The big difference and changes is again just not obviously not capping teams at two or three guys.
For sure. Anything you want to get to for the Warriors today as 5.5 point home favorites?
Um,
It's ugly on
not
that front too.
what'd you say?
It's ugly on the Warriors front too, just
Yeah,
from
it's
like a
just
pricing and
with Clay in. I mean, Clay just takes usage away from Wiggins. He's cut into Curry's production enough. You can always go to Curry in tournaments, but we talk about it a lot. He's relatively scoring dependent for his price tag. Whereas you talk about other guys, like Trae Young, who's $1,000 less expensive, assists at a much higher level and has a lot higher usage rate. DeJounte Murray rebounds at a much higher level. So with Curry, you just get a little bit lower floor than most other 10K plus guys, and it's not a great spot either. So, again, assuming he's going to be relatively low owned, you're never wrong for going there, but he doesn't really stand out to me. I have a hard time with Thompson and Wiggins. Looney at 4,300 is okay, but center only on DraftKings, so not really prioritizing that. Kuminga, assuming he starts again at 4,500, is playable, but doesn't look that great either. I think overall, this is one of the teams that I probably have the least amount of exposure to.
Black Main, yeah. We talked about that game. We don't have enough room on the sidebar to keep them all in there. I think we talked about Atlanta, Orlando first.
Yep.
Right? Yeah.
Yep.
So
Yep.
you can go back and check that out at the top of the show. That's why we had that sidebar though. So if you ever want to skip around, we got you. But when we have big games like this, we what we really should do, Mike, is just not even have the NBA strategy show up top if we have 11 games and just throw all of them up there so people aren't confused. Mike Lawrence producing today's show, everyone. Utah and the LA Lakers. Let's do this, man, and wrap it up. And of course, stick around throughout the rest of the day. You got a ton of content coming up for you. NHL strategy show, locks before lock, too. How about that? Ben and Matt Savoga, your boy Ben. You want to learn how to bet, like be good at betting and really understand it, and also just have him throw out some bets from like I've been tailing his lacrosse bets. I mean, what's going on? Adam, this dude somehow knows every sport out there. So
Talking about Ben?
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah.
And he's like, hey, do you have this lacrosse bet on your book? Yeah. And he's like, hammer it. College lacrosse. Okay. And I'll tail him on that. But yeah, he'll talk a lot of NBA with you today, but check that out. It's at 4:15 to 4:45. Then you're on with Greg for the deeper dive, then the live before lock, and then PGA live before lock at 8. So, I mean, we just got you covered all the way up through the night. So hang with us. Utah and the Lakers. Let's wrap it up. Rudy Gobert is back, Adam. They're pretty healthy out of Rudy Gay at this point. So it kind of limits a little bit what we want to do, but should be a competitive game. I'm waiting on the LeBron news before the All-Star break. Questionable with a knee. Probably plays. I don't know. But start us off with the Jazz.
I was reading replies on Twitter to my poll about if Drummond could defend Randall.
What, did you do it on Twitter?
Yeah.
Oh, you should have done it in the chat here. You should have had Mike put one in the chat.
I don't get interactions from our chat, Loughy.
Oh, you just wanted
I need engagement.
So you were just shit posting, really?
Well, I wanted to see.
You were baiting. Yeah.
We're right now at 76% no, 24% yes.
Okay. You're baiting. I mean, you just want people to be like, yeah, of course he can. And then I get it.
Yeah. I just want people to click on my tweet.
I get it. Yeah, you're a shit poster.
As far as Utah goes, I mean, good matchup here against the Lakers, 116 total for them. We're basically back at the point with Utah that we have been for most of the season. I think it goes without saying that Donovan Mitchell, Mike Conley, Rudy Gobert, like all of these guys are playable, but I don't think any of them really stand out in the context of the entire slate, compared to other options. Gobert, I think there's still a decent chance that he doesn't play his normal 33, 34 minutes. He played 22 minutes last game. That was a blowout, but even his rotations were just shorter. Like in the first half, he played 4 minutes in his first stint, closed out the first quarter for another minute and a half. So you're up to 5.5 minutes. Then he played about 4 minutes. So you're talking about 10 minutes in the first half. I still have a hard time thinking he's playing full run here. So I think that's a pretty tough sell. But like Mitchell, Conley, Clarkson at 5,200, any of those guys, if they land in your lineup, are okay. But I don't think I end up with like massive amounts of any of them.
With the Lakers at this point, Adam, especially with 11 games, I mean, unless LeBron gets ruled out, in that case, I have no problem getting to Anthony Davis. I don't see how you would want to get to anything here if everybody's healthy and active.
Yeah, pretty much. Davis at 9,500 is at least like he's another Jason Tatum example. Like
Sure.
his average projection is just there. Like it's correct. 9,500 is probably the correct price. But in any individual game, Anthony Davis can just absolutely take over and give you a monster game. And for that matter, the same goes for LeBron. Doesn't really go for Westbrook. Probably just made it happen. But
LeBron is playing huge minutes, though.
Right.
Like 41 in regulation. Imagine if LeBron's out today. I still don't think Davis's ownership will go that high because it's Utah and there's a lot of other good plays.
He's also only a center.
What's that?
He's also only a center on DraftKings.
Okay, yeah, so that's fair. But still, at 9,500, if LeBron is out, man, if it's close game, you get 40 minutes in regulation from Anthony Davis.
Yeah, and even if LeBron's in, it's a good tournament play in the sense that you can fit him into a lineup where you have, a bunch of the other top plays on the slate, and you're not sacrificing any ceiling because Anthony Davis is a monster. You're sacrificing a little bit of medium projection, but who cares?
I'm just saying I don't think he'll be chalk even if LeBron's out. Obviously, his ownership will be above 1% where it's at now, but I'm not sure he'll be like chalk.
I don't think he will either. Just because, at least on DraftKings, because he's center only. On FanDuel, he's 10-9, but he has power forward. If LeBron's out, I think he gets more ownership there probably. But yeah, so I mean, I think like in tournaments, either of LeBron or Davis are fine in the same way that like yesterday we said Jason Tatum was fine or Steph Curry is always fine. But I'm going to Murray and Young and Jokic probably, even at his price before I get to a lot of LeBron and Davis.
All right. This isn't bad. I mean, we did this in about an hour and 16 minutes for 11 games. That's really not bad at all. I'm proud of us. Anyway, thanks for you guys hanging out. As always, we got almost 700 people still watching with us. Hit that thumbs up, subscribe. Hang out for the rest of the day. Follow Adam at Ship My Money DFS, me at Loughy _D, LOUGHY_D. Remember, get $25 deposit bonus using the promo code at No House Advantage, appstore.com, nohouseadvantage.com, whatever, Google Play Store, you got it. Anything else before we get out of here, man?
No, that's it. I'll have the tournament plays videos up around 2. Me and Greg's injury report will be up around 1:30.
Boom. Yeah, check both of them out. Like I said, plenty of content for you guys today, and we'll see you back here soon. Thanks as always for watching the NBA Strategy Show. Peace.